Now that it's played out, the question for the 360 agenda is, what did it all mean? The Asada case wraps in federal courts as James Hird and Essendon ridicule the depiction of a relationship soured. Steve Johnson cleared of a broken foot, but the lingering soreness casts significant doubts. And King and McClure start Project List Sweep with an intense eye first up on the Demons. Flags are at half-mast tonight. I'm Jared Waitley, he's David King. This Wednesday night, it's footy from all angles. Still no sign of Robbo.
It's a bad case of gout, isn't it? It's a chronic case. He's had this before.
Yeah.
I feel for him. Most people, bed rest at home does the job. I'm not sure it's accommodating at his place.
Medivac?
I think so.
Get him out?
He's in trouble, the boy.
All right, there's plenty to deal with tonight, Kingy, but on an uplifting note to start with, a Wednesday love.
Well, I've gone with the emotion of coaching. I loved Ross Lyon. With a minute to go in the game on Saturday night, we saw what this can do to you, this game. Daniel Pearce didn't quite get the kick right going inside 50, and he thought his night was over. Look at that, bang. Give his assistant coaches a spray. By the time he got to ground side, they were a chance to win it. Have a look at him. Yeah, we've got 4 seconds, plenty of time. Knock this through and we'll get out of here, eh? I think he thought Mundy was going to kick it. The best kick he's got in the team, but didn't quite go that way. He walked away a happy man. But that is the volatility of coaching. Yes. It's fantastic.
Just ring you out across 2 hours and start again.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes, he's prominent again today in the aftermath of all of that.
Really? What do you love, Jared?
Oh, I love every player's got a backstory, and you only learn them along the way, really, once they start playing. We get a taste of the stories of players at draft stage, and then when they come into the to the main game, we find out. Max Duffy had waited a little while to get his crack at the AFL, a couple of years, and he came with such an emotional backstory, which we've learnt in the aftermath.
Stephen was my mate. He died when I was 18. Died of a heart attack when he was playing cricket. And tonight, I just... Just give me a sec. Are you all right? You can't do it. That's all right. Sure? So yeah, I'm going to donate half my match payment to Heart Kids WA on behalf of him. So no, I'm proud to have done it. So yeah, been a long build, but I'm proud to have played. And to have done it for him, it's very good. To have Phil here tonight supporting me means a lot. So I appreciate it.
When Max was drafted, he took the number 24, which was he took the number 24 was to signify the date that my son passed away. And for a young bloke of, I think Max was drafted at 19, to come up and do that has just blown us away. I know my son was looking down on him tonight, hence I think Max played pretty well. And Max has asked me if it was okay if he would donate half his match fee to the Heart Kids of WA. Heart Kids of WA look after all the kids with congenital heart diseases and that sort of thing. And for a young man of Max's age of 21, it is just a phenomenal thing to do, and I'm so very thankful for it.
It means so much anyway, but it meant an awful lot to two families on Saturday night.
Well, I think Max was hoping that Pav and Fife and the boys would come with him and donate half theirs as well, because wouldn't that get some funds going, Jerry? But it just shows you the emotion that football can bring, and the communities can come together and support, you know, people in need. And I think it's a fantastic story, and hopefully one that really gains some momentum with the Fremantle Football Club. OK, let's launch into the agenda and the third and final day in federal court with Asada against Essendon and James Hird finding its way to its conclusion in terms of a hearing, with the final couple of witnesses cross-examined and their evidence tabled and the legal complexities explored along the way before a delay now while Justice Middleton considers his verdicts. In the aftermath outside court, James Hird and Paul Little wanted to put a stop to the commentary of the past 2 days, which has depicted the separation between the two parties and the idea of a relationship that was souring.
Thank you. Well, it's great to finally get a fair hearing, and I'd like to thank Justice Middleton for that. I'd like to thank all the Essendon supporters, the members, the players, and all the support staff of the Essendon Football Club for their support and patience. I'd also like to thank Paul and the board for all their support, and just say that there's been a lot of silly things said in the paper, but I fully support Paul and his board, and they've been terrific of late, and I can't wait for Saturday night to watch the Bombers beat the West Coast Eagles. So thank you, and we'll speak later on.
It's just a series of small obstacles we've got in front of us, and this is another one. We've tried to separate all the time the playing group from this legal action. This is terribly important. In our mind, we have to be satisfied that the process was legal, and that will be determined by the judge.
Will you fight on if you don't get the result you want?
Look, that's speculating. I'm not quite sure what we'll do then.
If it's deemed unlawful, do you expect all the evidence so far to be rendered null and void?
Well, look, that's a question that the judge will answer. I guess that's possible that could happen, but at this point in time, I think the judge has got a lot in front of him, so we need to respect that and just wait for his decision.
And you've been disappointed in talk of a rift between yourself and James?
It's simply not right, and you know, we're not going to run this process or any other process through the press. James and I, as you've just heard James say, we have a very strong relationship. We have a strong relationship with the board. James has a strong relationship with Bomber, and it's a very positive 2-15 we're looking forward to. The feedback is we're just asking the players to focus on getting us into the finals at this stage. Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you.
Just the awkward moment at the end there.
His idea was the cuddle. It didn't go well, did it?
No,
it was an awkward one.
How have you read of the football sense, not the legal sense, because that's to be determined on another day by far greater minds. What about the football sense in what's happened?
Oh, look, it's a mess. It is impossible to work out where the truth sits and where it all sits, even in a football sense, Jared. I think that it's getting more and more awkward now for Hootie to come back. You know, given the information we're finding out now, and given the level and the depths of deceit that's going on, really, there's a lot of blaming at the moment. A lot of he said, she said. A lot of note taking that's not a lot of Essendon's. So for me, it's a bit messy, and I just think it's almost impossible now for James to come back, unfortunately.
OK, the federal court hearing today, and if there was one quote to put before you, it came late in the day with all the legalese being explored, and it came from Asada's QC, Tom Howe. Your Honour, you know that Asada can reacquire the same information, do it within 24 hours and reissue identical show cause notices. At which point you took a deep breath and oh, what the hell are we doing? Julian De Stoop sat through 3 days in federal court. That is actually a matter of dispute for what it's worth. Jules, the day started with the 2 additional witnesses to be cross-examined from Asada's perspective.
Yeah, they did, Jared. So you had Aaron Walker, who's an investigator from Asada, and also Trevor Burgess, who was the COO of Asada. His evidence was definitely the most interesting today. Just gave us another insight into the pressure that was being put on Asada by the AFL. He spoke in July that the pressure was coming for this interim report to be produced, and the AFL said, look, if you don't get it done and get it to us very soon, we'll just take a weekend to do it ourselves. And also he relayed a conversation that he had with Richard Eccles, the senior bureaucrat from the Gillard government, who relayed a conversation he had with an unnamed an official from the AFL who was talking about James Hird's suspension, and the quotes were, he will get 6 months minimum or maybe even more than that. Non-players will also go down. All the ducks are in place. That was early August, and as we know, late August, James Hird was charged, as were the Essendon Football Club and some of the officials. And also in that conversation, it was being pointed out that the AFL would try to make Asada look like the bad guys. Also revealed today that the Gillard government offered further funds to Asada to expedite this process mid-year last year, and also the AFL offered more legal assistance to get the process going as well. So once again, as it's sort of been highlighted, particularly the last 2 days, a lot of pressure coming on Asada from the AFL and also the Gillard government, and I guess it has shown that the governance at Asada hasn't been great either. We know Essendon got some big penalties for bad governance, and the AFL influence has been fleshed out a little little bit as well over these 3 days.
So the evidence has been most revealing. I think it's been absolutely worthwhile to hear about the competence of Asada and the conduct of the AFL, but the nitty-gritty is actually where this sits, and that was the legal speak of the last 2 or 3 hours, trying to answer the question as to whether the joint investigation was in fact lawful.
Well, you're right, Jared. Everything you said that's come out has been handy and interesting for people, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the question was this joint investigation unlawful? And if the answer to that question is yes, what exactly does that mean? Essendon are pushing for the fact that means all the evidence is null and void, and they believe if Asada want to keep going, they have to start again. But as you read out that quote before, the fact is the Asada lawyers are saying, well, that's the case. We'll just reissue those show cause notices, the 34 within 24 hours. So the feeling is Justice Middleton will take minimum 4 weeks, possibly up to 10 weeks to release his findings on this, and then is a matter of exactly what that means. The feeling is if Essendon don't get the result here, they won't take this any further in the courts. They will plan their response to the 34 show cause notices, because they're still very confident Asada doesn't have enough information to suspend their players. But for now, I guess we can focus on footy for a while before we get this result from Justice Middleton in, as I say, minimum 4 weeks, potentially a maximum 10 weeks, which is going to be right near the end of the season.
Good job, Jules. Thanks a lot. So there'll still come a day where the show cause notices for 34 players will have to be answered, and that's absolutely appropriate for whatever else is taking place along the way. And it has been revealing, and necessarily so. Public figures, elected figures, those who run key sports should be held to account for their conduct. But that central question at the end of the show cause notices of 34 players, I'm still certain they will have to be answered.
Yeah, and I think that's a given. I think that's a given no matter which way it goes. But the only loser in this is Asada. I mean, there's no way in the next CBA with the AFL Players Association that they'll tick off on this.
They'll have to, under federal government
this case they will, but the next CBA, there's no way that they will give up what they give up to go down this drugs policy under the current regime. It's just not right.
Well, Asada will have to shape up. I think you would take the view that Asada was particularly well set up to deal with a weightlifter who provided a positive sample and ban him for 2 years. What it was less set up for was an in-depth investigation in the modern vogue of what's been necessary in world sport, and as a result of this, the federal government has to ensure that the legislative body actually gets the teeth and the powers and the competence to be able to run this sort of investigation.
So what do you think this has done to James Hird as a brand, as a face of this football club?
I think there was a necessary separation which played out across those first 2 days, but in 4 weeks' time he's returning as the coach of the club as soon as their season finishes, whenever that is. So that separation of now has to be come back into the fold in a month's time. I think that's a difficult position which was made abundantly clear over 2 days on the stand. But I don't think Hird had any way of being able to go on personally without being able to purge his soul under oath. So maybe this will help him, whether it sees them as a collective at the right time.
Regardless of what happens with the players?
No. Whatever, if there's ever an infraction notice, they're all done.
Yep.
And that's been the trigger point the whole way through. But it is hard for him to come back, no matter. The casualty wards. Dustin Fletcher, we knew last night, season-ending surgery for him. And what does that mean to his career? He headed into hospital today.
Wait, Dustin, you're coming in for surgery now?
Yeah, getting the finger looked at, so with a bit of luck they'll fix her up. You know, the boys are a chance at finals, so we'll wait for them, and with a bit of luck they can, do the job there.
Are you keen to go again, though?
Yeah, we'll just have to see how we go. Just get this fixed up and we'll go from there.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
The interpretation being offered is that he will go on next year and achieve 400 games. What's your read? What's your opinion?
I think when someone gets this close to a milestone of that significance, 400 games, Jared, if he thinks he can play on, for me, he plays on. It's not a stretch to have one spot on the list taken up by an icon of your football club. He's 7 games short. Who cares if he retires halfway through next year? Who really cares? This guy will go down in Essendon folklore. He's an absolute super person. It doesn't hurt you to have around the football club. They look up to him. They love the way he plays. He's a teacher. He loves the Essendon Football Club. It's a no-brainer for me. He's played 15 games this year. To me, it's not like he's played 3 or 4 and been out with injuries all year. He's in for a finger operation. It's not a major knee surgery or a debilitating calf injury that's been a recurring problem all year. He can get by, and I've got no doubt that they'll do the right thing and they'll play him next year, and we will celebrate this guy when he gets to 400 like no other. Yep. It's a huge milestone, and 2 other players in the history of our game have got there. They've got to ensure that he gets there. Yep. For me, it's as simple as that.
Yep, no, I'm with you on that. Steve Johnson, we saw him on crutches last night, in for scans. His words are of more value than anyone else's.
How's the foot going?
Oh, it's not too bad. I had scans yesterday and they've come up that I don't have any fractures, so it's just about how I manage it going forward, and there's a little bit of pain there, but yeah, hasn't ruled me out for any amount of time at all.
With these sort of things, we always tend to be conservative, and certainly this time of year with a player of Steve's calibre, we're taking that approach. The bottom line is we don't really know what it is at the moment.
I'll just have to go back and consult with the doctors and yeah, see how it pulls up over the next few days, and yeah, certainly haven't been ruled out at all yet.
All right, so finals, do you think we'll still be there?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be right by then, mate. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for your time.
No worries.
We've got an outstanding medical team here, and they're still working through the plan. So it'd be against protocol for me to sort of speculate on too much on what the actual issue is until they've devised the plan. But they have told me that it's not serious. But we're going to be really conservative short term, and short term I mean the next 2 or 3 days. So they still said that there's some chance he'll play this week, but unless he's absolutely right, I wouldn't have thought we'd put him at risk.
I don't think he'll be part of Friday night.
You know, they play the week after, Jared.
They play Hawthorn.
That's when he'll be right. He'll be 100% ready to go. It is a concern. These are what we flagged a few weeks ago. Injuries at this stage of the year, regardless of whether they're named and whether they play, they're impacted. And this guy's a superstar. He's one of the reasons why they win and lose on a regular basis. If he's not there, it's a concern. But when he is there, is he 80% fit? Is he 70% fit next week? Does he play ahead of time next week? Can you afford to rest him against the Hawthorn? In a game you must win to potentially stay in the top 4. And there's a huge injury with massive ramifications for Geelong. We hope that he's fine. We hope it's only a short-term thing, but we really never know from the outside looking in.
All right, so that's still the aftermath from what happened on Saturday night, and it continues to bubble away in the West. It was an unusual night with the way that the game was umpired, and certainly statistically it caused outrage with Fremantle fans being 17 free kicks the wrong side of the ledger, and Ross Lyon took that to heart today.
But I think it's an incredibly difficult game to umpire, and you know there's lots of agendas not agendas, but there's lots of views and pressures, and you know you just hope it's not too reactionary. But there's been a clear shift in the second half of the year. Like we played the Bulldogs, we got 4 free kicks for the game in a congested game, but then you know you get I don't know 7 or 8 weeks later, and there's 39 free kicks played in a half. And then there's a shift within the game philosophically, and we know they do have contact at half time, and which is fine because you know they're coaches. It's like we give our players feedback at the breaks to try and improve. So clearly there's a shift within the game. They are frustrations that we'll take responsibility, but to suggest you know it's when the guesses occur. I'm certainly not an umpire basher, but hopefully the rub of the green will turn at some point for us.
So feeling on the wrong end of it at the moment. It was a peculiar game in that the 39 free kicks in the first half, and then there were 5 in the last quarter, 4-1 Fremantle's ways. To call it was to... Look, everyone was ginned up for the game, and the umpires were on red alert to bring it to hand early.
Can happen though, can't it? It can happen. I was there for the West Coast Collingwood game on the weekend, and they got an enormous run with the umpiring in that first quarter of football, the West Coast, and it impacted the scoreboard. And I've no doubt that this did on Saturday night as well. In a tight game, in a big game, it can make the difference. So I can understand the coach's frustration. It's nearly worthy of a phone call from the AFL. Look, you're on the fine line here, Ross. We'll accept this one. Agenda was a word I'm glad he took back. Yeah. Because if he had left that one out there, that would have caused some ramifications. But I think it's worthy of a phone call. Look, we'll let you get away with this one, but no more umpire bashing from here on in. He's made his point, and I'm sure it'll correct this week, Jared.
OK, Port Adelaide are right on the brink at the moment, having lost 6 of their past 8. Travis we spoke to him about this time last week about the prospect at hand. They were certainly better against the Swans, but it didn't get them the win that they're craving.
The run was certainly one that we need to get back, and that feels like it's starting to come back for us, and that belief's really there, and certainly the energy I spoke about, that really gets us going as a group, and when we're all up and about, we play our best footy. We win the ball inside, and then we run and we spread, and that's certainly an area we felt we got back on the weekend.
Did you see enough pegging back of certain areas to think that momentum might be still able to be harnessed?
Yeah, I haven't given up on Port. A lot of people have. They've dropped off the Port wagon. I still think they've got an asset this run that they can take into a finals campaign, and they will scare every team they come up against. I've no doubt about that. It travels, this game plan. It's not one that they can only play at home because of the venue shape or size, like maybe Patterson Stadium is. I still think they've got to get tougher. I think they're kidding themselves. They think they're totally back as a complete package. They're ranked 17th in the competition for ground ball gets in the competition over the last 4 weeks, with only Brisbane behind them. So that's not going to stack up against the best sides at the pointy end. So there's some work to do.
Given the way the Suns have faded, this is just not negotiable. The Suns have lost only 2 at home this year, and I think they were Hawthorn and it's either Fremantle or Sydney. So they've taken good scalps along the way, but they're just so far off it at the moment. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable. They'll win this one. I've got no doubt that they're ready to go. When the whips are cracking, they'll be there. They'll win their next 2. I've got no doubt they'll win at Adelaide Oval against Carlton. The third one's the big one we all wait to see. Fremantle away, see how they stack up over there. It could be for a potential top 4 spot. And if that happens, well, that's the curveball that this club needs.
OK. And then there's Richmond. Richmond must run every night at the moment, given what's building here. And in a way, I feel for the team. They're rolling out their best form, their best stuff of the year. They've got to 6 in a row for the first time in 19 years. And on the periphery, everyone's wondering if it can amount to a run at the finals, as Trent Cotchin is keeping the focus much narrower than that.
Yeah, excited. I mean, every game's a new match, a new opportunity. Last week was a great win, but on the back of that, we need to perform via Adelaide this week over there. We know that the 19th man is strong. I'm excited to play on the new Adelaide Oval. That's a great opportunity in itself, and we're just going to be very excited about taking it to them and hopefully beating them.
They're a good side, Richmond. I know you've got off them this year, and much to their disappointment, Jared. You were on for a brief period last year and jumped off, but I think they're a tough side. They've got their clearance game back. Miles has gone to that midfield and reshaped their clearance game. I think they're tough. They're generally honest at the contest at the moment, which they haven't been able to say all year. I think the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, they expected things to happen rather than forcing them to happen. They really missed Big Ivan Marek in the ruck and Rance down back. But since they've been complete, we've seen the real Richmond, and unfortunately it's too late in the season. I don't think they'll be fooled into thinking they're somewhere they're not, and it won't be treated as fool's gold this last 6 weeks of the season, even if they're to go on and win the next 2 and miss out by a percentage or a game against Sydney. I don't think it'll matter. They know where they're at. There's been no wallpapering over the cracks this year. Everything that's gone wrong has come up in game for them, so they know where they're at. That's for me a big escape for them, if you like.
So with that being the case, then these wins are invaluable, are they not, in setting the standard and I guess the wake-up of what they did in the first half of the season carrying forward, as opposed to the delusion of going, right, we're OK here, we're rushing the top 4 with what we've got.
Now they know their leaders let them down. When the games were there to be won the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, their leaders weren't there, and they asked those Moneyball players, that next wave or that next bracket of players, to win games for them. That's not what they're there for. They're not ready for that yet, some of these young kids, and the older, more experienced players are there to play lesser roles. So guys like Cotchin, Delidio, Martin, Rance, their leadership group were meant to stand up and get them over the line, show the way, like we see the top bracket do. That didn't happen, but having said that, it has turned, and now that's working for them. They would expect that to go through the pre-season and come out in 2015 all guns blazing.
OK, so they go to the Adelaide Oval to face the Crows, and the Adelaide Advertiser is the cue here as to whether the Crows have been offered an excuse by their own coach before they even head out to play. Tigers sniff tired prey after Sando's outburst. Now, Sanderson based his comments around the heat at the Gabba, and it is August, and This is not a bigger clanger as when a March afternoon is scheduled in Brisbane. That set aside, is we often talk about don't give the players an out before you start, and clearly that's what the Addy is fearing.
Well, if they miss the finals, don't look back at round 20 and say, oh, it was a hot day in August up in Brisbane. That'd be a nonsense. Sando's made an error here, and I think he'd be sitting at home over the weekend thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone that hard, I shouldn't have gone down that path, I've really got this wrong, and I've given my players an out. Will they take it? That's the big question for me. The players can easily take this one and blame Sando. Oh, we'll lull them to a false sense of security, or they can take the shortcut if they want. For me, it's about how Richmond handle it. Are they thinking, oh, 6 days off the heat, we'll get them here, we'll run them, we'll outgun them in the last quarter? If this game's in the balance at three-quarter time, I'm fascinated to see if Richmond go for the throat, like they should. Yep. Or do they sit back and say, no, we'll be right here, we'll coast to the line, and Adelaide find a yard and get the job done? I can half see that happening, Jared, that it's a goal of difference at three-quarter time and the Crows run away with it. It's a game that Richmond can't afford to lose. The Crows can't either, mind you, but I think Sando made a blue. All right, Sam Jacobs is going to join us tomorrow night, the All-Australian Ruckman-elect, surely, as we head towards the end of the season. Mark McClure about to join David King, and we'll chew through matters, including the homework assignment, how to improve specific lists heading towards 2015.
I thought on the weekend for three quarters again we're pretty good, and we started to move the ball a lot better. But I suspect it's going to take another pre-season for us to really nail it down. I reckon we've got the defensive side down reasonable, and I think we've been really working the last month to 6 weeks offensively. So, with only 3 weeks to go in the season, we're now talking both and balance and trying to get both right. So that's probably been the biggest challenge for us. The skill errors, providing the effort's there. I think as a coach you get frustrated with skill errors, but you're more concerned if there's no effort. So I thought on the weekend we were really good with effort. We just got beaten by a better team on the weekend, and that's the theme we've got to continue for 3 weeks. The biggest challenge for our guys is just that two-way running. I think the commitment they're making now to running defensively is a lot greater, but at the expense, you can see when we get the ball sometimes like, oh, the whole air goes out of the stadium. Oh, fantastic, we've got the ball now. But the problem is you kick it down the line, you got to defend again. So it's certainly something we're talking about and working on, but I think, as I said, it's just that absolute gut running in AFL footy that you have to do.
So Melbourne's progress has been put into sharp focus at the moment with 3 weeks to go, and an MCG encounter against the Giants will help that still. Mark McClure, welcome.
How you going, Jared?
David King still with us. So,
where's Robbo? Is he Sunny Crust bread, or can we still just go on?
Now, we want to, over the last few weeks of the show this year, look at creative, bold, decisive list management. How do you improve your lot with your list? Now, the first part to that, as you've always explained, is you have to know where you are. Yep. So Melbourne. Start with, where are they?
Well, I'm looking at Melbourne. It's a fascinating study. Roosie, if he wasn't in the job and we just looked at the numbers, you'd have to say it's blind faith in Roosie right now, given where they're at with some of the numbers that they're putting up. We'll put a few up, Jared, and have a talk about them. They're the lowest scoring team since a major rule change in 1969, which you'll be aware of. When you kick the ball out in the full, they had to throw it back in.
I've heard of it, yes.
Scoring went through the roof since that change. It took a lot of minutes off the clock. If you take out GWS in 2012, they're the lowest scoring team since that rule change. Now, that is an unbelievable figure.
Doesn't surprise me watching them, though.
Doesn't surprise you? The lowest scoring team when they win a clearance, and the lowest scoring team when they win a turnover by a percentage. They're disastrous figures. Their pressure is one thing you should be able to guarantee, Jared, and when you look at the last 16 quarters, they've only out-pressured their opponent in one of those 16 quarters. The 60 quarters before that, they were going at 50-50, so 28 of 60. So they've lost that as well. I just feel like at times that, and this is not a go at Roosie, he's coaching the stocks that he's got, and that's why we keep saying you've got to know where you're at, and it just shows either the depth of the situation that is at Melbourne right now, or the faith that we're just showing in Roosie. Because if it was any other coach, we'd be questioning what's going on down there. We'd be wondering how long this is going to continue for. But it does look like he's coaching for percentage. I will say that. Totally. Last year they had a percentage of 54.1 with 2 win sellers. This year it's at at 71, and I feel like he's trying to kill the game, play dead time and just have repeat stoppages, or be happy to be taken to ground in a stoppage and force a neutral ball too often.
He's minimised the damage. We understand that, and that's what he's tried to do, and he knows that, and he's talked about that. But it is time to start to get some forward movement going. I mean, they have the capability to do so. They're all come out of the same draft. I think that I watched them the other day. That was the best return they've had for some time. 8 goals, and their last quarter wasn't bad, but the game was shot to bits, and it didn't really matter too much. But I think making excuses about all this stuff, they look backwards all the time. They look for someone on their own all the time, and I understand that because he doesn't want them to lose the ball. He doesn't kick to a contest, and he's got to start to do that. You've got to trust your players. You don't get any confidence out of no one kicking it to you because you can't beat an opponent. Maxi Gawn goes okay.
Does.
He goes real well up forward, and then he can take a mark, and that's a focal point they need to go to. They need a few more forwards, as we know, but they've got some there, and it's about time we let them free. And GWS is probably not a bad time.
Oh, exactly right. Look, I think from the first dozen rounds of the season, Jerry, the Melbourne supporters were wrapped with what they were seeing. Competitiveness, a real vision of the future. They were back. They were happy to go to the football and watch their team lose, but in a real competitive way. The next 6 or 7 weeks for me have just meandered along, and there hasn't really been any drastic improvement. This is the start of the year. This is the pressure they were able to put on. And I'd go to the footy just to watch that. It doesn't really matter whether you're good enough or not. You can do this. It's not a talent thing. And I know that this is driving Roosie insane, that he gets this in fits and spurts. He doesn't really get it on a consistent level, and there's no excuse for that. This is Roosie's philosophy since day one.
I think they enjoyed the footy at the start because they were learning something new. They're sick of it now. They want to score. They want to score. They're sick of it.
OK, so the philosophy first on Project List Sweep as you look through clubs over the next few weeks. How do you fix a list? How do you move a list from being mediocre beyond middling to something more than that?
Exactly. This is the task for me now. They know now where they're at. OK, so on field it's been a year of what they've had, and they can now correct. For me, Roosie's biggest task is the drafts and the trade period. We look at some of what history's shown us. You can see there Geelong over the space of 2 to 3 drafts. They're the names that come in. They didn't get too many wrong in that period, and it gave them a chance to rebuild. We've seen Hawthorn do it as the next wave. We saw Brisbane do it before then, and we've seen Hawthorn do it since. There's just a few names that give you some real stability and some real leadership around the edges.
All premiership players.
Yeah.
All of them, except for Maloney in that area. All the rest of them are all premiership players with their club. So you can do it, and they got one in 4 years. It was an amazing performance from Hawthorn.
And I think that what Roosie's challenge is now, if he can't get it on field in terms of wins, he has to get it drafts. He's there for 3 drafts and trade period. One's already down, and they had a win out of last year. You'd have to give it a tick, but this is the one that counts now, Jared.
So you have to be bold. You have to find a way. I always think the rule of thumb is 4 picks inside 20 or some derivative of that if you really want to go. How would you set Melbourne up? Bold thinking.
Well, they have to accept that they've got to get. I've gone for 5 in 21. Put it that way, Jerry. We'll see if we can get there. And there'll be some that disagree with this, some that agree. But they get pick 3 because of the natural order of where they finish in the draft. So say they finish where they are now, they get to pick 3 and 21. If Frawley leaves, that'll leave them with the pick after their first selection, if the money's right. And that's an important factor in that. If that's right, they'll end up with pick 3 and 4. Then you get to Jack Watts. Now, he's talked about a lot. I think they need to make a call on this guy. If he's not the future, then move him on. So as I think he'd get between pick 20 to 25 for him. I don't think he's quite a first-round pick, but I don't think he's a complete bomb. I think you'll get a lot of games out of this guy at the next club, at a good club.
Yeah, but what are you going to pick up? You don't exactly know. They know what they've got with this guy. I disagree with him in this area. I think they can do something with him. He's got great talent. He doesn't work hard enough.
Melbourne can, or another club
Melbourne can. So I'm disagreeing on that. Okay. I understand what you're trying to move, but I think he's got enormous talent.
I don't think it helps them keeping him. I think they need to get this 5 picks in 21.
That's okay.
The next one up is Tumpus, and he's an interesting one because he's a South Australian boy. He played 4 games this year. He played 14 last year. What would you get for him if he is to go back? Do a Port Adelaide need this sort of player, high skill level?
2nd, 3rd round?
Yeah, I don't agree. I think that he's 2 years into development already, so they get a ready-made product ready to come in and play. If they see him as that...
What do you reckon he's worth?
That elite junior. Well, I think he's nearly worth their first pick, which would be somewhere between 12 and 15. This is the sort of thing you have to do. You have to package it up. I'm not sure whether it's Tumpus alone that gets that, but they need to find something for this guy. If they're not seeing him as the future and not playing him right now, then I think they have to offer him up.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot around though. There's lots of clubs with players around, and we saw people get out of GWS, out of other clubs, lots of little kids around the place who are pretty bloody good, and they help their side.
Okay, so something bold.
Yeah, well, we saw Hawthorn give up Crowden McFarlane, not by choice McFarlane, but give up Crowden McFarlane for picks 1, 20 and 36 years ago, and at the time it was a risk. They ended up getting Luke Hodge with pick 1 and Sam Mitchell with pick 36.
So Crowd came back. After being on loan to play in their premiership.
On loan, I like it, Jared. Well, I think they have to make a decision on Trengove or Grimes. One of those guys that's got some genuine currency and not quite playing at the level that they'd hoped right now. I think you'd get a second-round pick guaranteed for one of those guys, and maybe an upgraded first-round selection. So say they get a pick 20 for Jack Watts, then I think that if you traded with a club like, pick a middle club at the moment, say Essendon,
yeah.
you might be able to get their first-round pick, which is say pick 12, and give them the pick 20 that you got for Watts. So that would leave you with, Jared, 5 picks inside the top 20. And let's just name those picks. They'd be pick 3, 4, a 10 to 12-ish sort of pick, a 12 to 15-ish pick, and 2 second-round selections starting at pick 21. That's what they need. If Ruzi is to leave a legacy or a stamp on this club, this is the draft that he has to do it. He has to have some time to work with these guys, and he has to have the opportunity to shape the club.
Okay.
Essendon will trade too, because they haven't got much else to do.
Yeah, there'll be clubs who you'll be able to engage with. But we haven't quite got out of the conservative thinking mould. People will look at this and go, "You can't do that." And you go, actually, this is the only way to progress.
He did it last year.
Your trades have to be win-wins these days.
Last year he did it. Traded pick 2 for pick 9 and Dom Tyson. I wouldn't be surprised if he does that again. If he gets pick 4 for Frawley, I wouldn't be surprised if he said, "No, I need more than that. I need another player, and I'll take a later pick." And that's what you need to do.
Okay, you can take another club next week to bring to the table.
I reckon he'll go Frawley too, no doubt.
The Carlton side of things, Sellers, you were adamant that Chris Judd should play on, and he's going to play on. And we mentioned last night, it seemed to be the feel-good story of the week.
Yeah, it's a good story. It's a good story for everyone. He's a great player. He's been probably the best player in that position I've ever seen when he was at his lightning best. He's still very handy. The thing that really impressed me about him the other night when he got on the couch was he was honest and truthful, and he's really opened up about his footy. And one thing that sort of churned my tummy a little bit, this is the first time he's played in a side that he really thinks they're all having a go. I went, what? That was an amazing call for me. So I'm pleased he's still there, and I still hope he's still driving the youth and improving them, because we've got one coming in Sammy Rowe in a minute, and he's been a revelation really in defence. So he's well required in the league and well required at that footy club.
And what can he do in one more year, do you think?
Well, you can see some of the development of the kids, and he's not a boisterous talker or any of that. He's a doer, and he trains superbly at his peak, and they follow. When you see someone like that, you follow them, and you want to beat them. He's pretty hard to beat in training, so they'll keep trying, and when he gets beat, I reckon he'll retire, which will probably be maybe end of next year. Might even go another one if he feels good. He's had bad injuries, that's why I wanted to get out.
Let's look into the pointy end of things. Premiership contention. Kingy, you wrote in the Herald Sun on Saturday about the single biggest figure in the final series is the potential, the incredible Hawk.
Yeah, he's huge, isn't he, this man? I'll tell you, he will be the reason why Geelong either win it or they don't. It's as simple as that for me. They're good enough around the park, and we can try and pick holes in them. We've tried to do that over a number of years. I've done it more than most, Sellers.
And failed.
And failed more than most. But they give you a reason to love them. And I just want to have a look at some of the one-on-one targets in the competition at the moment and just show you where their returns are at the minute, because some of these key post guys are frightening, and we'll get to Hawkins shortly. But we'll start with the Adelaide Crow in Big Tex and have a look at his returns there. You can see that's the season numbers there, Sellers. Yep. The one that we're really looking at is the one in green there. That's the amount of contests they win when they're trapped one-on-one with their opponent. There's Ruffy. Both those guys are at 38, both the same amount of neutral balls, which is just brought to the ground. At 40, there's Cloak. A lot of neutral balls. He wins 1 in every 4. He loses 1 in every 4, roughly. Yeah. There's Franklin, who's had a fantastic season. 1 in every 3 he's winning, splitting the other 2. But he's the big man. Have a look at those numbers. He's almost 50-50 when he's trapped in a one-on-one. I just had a look at the last 4 weeks in particular. He's outmarked his opponent in 11 of 28 contests. He's won 15 of 28, which is over 50%. This guy is unstoppable. And I think that when you look at him and Franklin are both going at over 50% when trapped in one-on-ones in the last month of football. But the way they get the ball to this guy...
One-on-one.
One-on-one and with speed. I can't wait to ask Sam Rowe about it. Yeah. But it's frightening for any defensive unit to come up against him, in particular a full-back.
And they spread the defence well, don't they? Yeah. They spread the opposition defence well, and they leave him one out, and they kick these balls that are just get to him. And when he's in front, impossible to get round. So they've got a plan with him, and it works well.
And he doesn't miss.
Hey, Texas is pretty good. For first year back after a knee. Outstanding.
Beautiful set of numbers to bring to the table.
Yeah,
so from premiership contention to the squeeze for the 8. So everything is measured through the ladder at the moment, and the amazing contraction of the weekend, which has put 6 teams into 2 places from here. So the focus here is 7 through 12. And I've asked each of you to nail your flag to a mast. Which team will make it in the squeeze, Sellers?
I think Adelaide will make it. I think they'll get in comfortably. They have Texas showing exactly what a key forward's supposed to do in a position like this. And 6 last week could give him more confidence, because I think he's been down a little bit on it. And he's still up there with the marking area. So I think they'll make it quite comfortably. They beat Richmond, and then I don't know about North, but they'll certainly beat St Kilda, and that'll be enough. That'll get them through.
OK, so the Crows, and who have you stumped for?
Oh, I'm sticking with the Bombers. I've been with them all year.
Yes.
It's been a tough year to ride out this one, but look, I think they're playing some fantastic footy. Even though they're not winning, I think their efforts in Sydney for the last 3 quarters were pretty good. I thought they played some slick football on Friday night, but they just made some errors going inside that forward 50.
Yeah,
they didn't have a dominant target down there. But that's a pretty good draw for me. West Coast at home.
Do you think they'll beat them?
Yeah, I think they will.
They're in good form.
Yeah, they're in good form, but so are the Bombers. Gold Coast at home, and then Carlton, the MCG, will be a huge game in round 23. But I can see them winning all 3 of those games and going into the finals full with a full head of steam, Jared.
I tell you what, there'll be some fired-up Carlton supporters there the last round trying to knock them out. It's a weird thought, but let me tell you, that's what it's like.
What is a hawk fork minus 2 prongs?
A hawk, it's just a skewer, Jared.
What's the fondue?
It's just a skewer.
Yeah.
We'll test that in the on Sunday night. Sellers, enjoy your weekend of footy.
Thank you very much.
See you next Wednesday night. So we're going to bring in Sam Rowe, the Blues defender who's really made his way in season 2014. He's got reward for us.
Carlton by a point. Thriller Friday night, Etihad Stadium.
Boundary throw in. Warnock in front, wins it down. Guthrie's over the football. Selwood, thanks to Guthrie, comes away, and the kick is good.
Warnock able to win it down. Comes out to Selwood. Selwood puts it away. Selwood's kicked the goal. 40 metres out. Selwood's kicked the goal. The champs had no impact, but when it mattered the most, he rises like a phoenix. That was amazing stuff by the skipper.
Geelong have escaped. What a night. The Cats win. And probably buried the Blues.
It was a mid-season thriller that gets revisited on Friday night with Carlton and Geelong again meeting at Etihad Stadium. One man who's going to be central to that, and he's been central to the Blues season, one of their biggest gains, is key defender Sam Rowe. Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
Your reward for your efforts is a new 2-year contract.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. The club have signed me up again, so, it's very rewarding, and, I'm very thankful for the club.
Coming into this year, you were on trial, I imagine. You're a 26-year-old who'd played, 10 games. You had to prove yourself this year to make sure that you had an extended career?
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly make or break. If I didn't cement myself a position this year, I would definitely be out the door, I'm sure.
Did Juddy take a pay cut to keep going?
Oh, certainly not. I'm playing for the love of the game here. That's about it.
Love of the game.
That's beautiful.
I'm familiar with those contracts, by the way.
If we asked you where you've made the greatest gains in your game, how would you define your improvement?
It's probably just having the continuity and the confidence. Obviously, I've played a new position this year, and something that has been a big challenge, but I enjoy new challenges, enjoy big challenges, so I think that's something that I've just set myself for, and it's been rewarding to to prove myself in that position, really.
We showed some figures before on Hawkins, Franklin, Cloke, Roughhead, Walker. Now, you've played on all of them this year. There you are up against Ruffy, just doing your thing. That's the life of a backman. You have to tackle every now and then.
Yeah.
Who have you found the most challenging, and in what way? What was the reason?
Probably Hawkins is the one that has really got a hold of me this year. I think he's very strong, very big guy, and I probably didn't play him all that smartly. So he's probably the one that really got a hold of me during the year, and something I'll learn a lot from.
So what have you learnt across this year, being now the key defender?
It's basically, every key forward has their different attributes that they're good at. So someone like a Buddy Franklin, who's so agile, you got to play him a lot differently to a tomahawk. So it's just basically finding out what their strengths are and try to just take that away from them as best I can.
Did you think at the start of the year you'd be capable of mixing it with that list of players that's been read out from Franklin to Walker?
I probably didn't think that I'd have a chance to play on all of them. I was. You're always hopeful as someone who hasn't quite made it yet. You're hopeful of getting the chance, but I was just setting myself to do everything I could to give myself the best chance, and whatever happened came from that.
Can I ask you, when Mick makes his way down to the boundary with about 5 minutes to go in each quarter, does it help you or hurt you? Because he just stares you out there. You know when you've made a mistake, you've got to cross that white line and get to him. Does it worry you?
No, it doesn't really. I mean, he's pretty intense on game day, but most people are. So. His stare can sort of burn right through you at times, but I think he's always intense. He wants to win, and so do we all. So it doesn't really make too much.
Has he given you one? Has he eyeballed you?
I've had some fair sprays throughout my days as well from Mick. So it's always I don't mind that too much.
We spoke at the start of the show about the backstory of players, which we all get to share, and it becomes public once you're in the AFL system. And yours obviously took you through the cancer battle of 2012 and now to a thriving AFL career. It's remarkable progression. Do you have a sense of it?
I try not to picture myself as a cancer survivor as such. There's a lot of people in society have to deal with that, and I'm no different to anyone else. So I don't try to think that I'm unlucky or whatever to have gone through that. I'm no different to anyone else. So I'm just happy that I've got through it, obviously, and that I want to play footy, and it's all going reasonably well at the moment, so I'm just happy with that.
There were times where this must have seemed a long way away, and here you are as a regular key member of a big club and with a career that's got at least 2 years to run from here.
Yeah, it's rewarding, I guess. It's been a long journey, really. So, and a fair bit of hard work put in along the way. So it's just rewarding to get another couple of years, and hopefully a bit of success coming up with the next couple of years for the club.
Where to for Carlton this year? I'll be more specific on Carlton and how they're playing. What's been the goal set for the last month or so of the season?
Yeah, well, we're really treating the last month, as if we're leading into, we're possibly 30-odd games away from finals next year. So it'd be a real waste of the year if we just rolled through the last month and didn't really get much out of it. So I think as a club we have taken some good steps forward throughout the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, and we want to continue that for the next 3.
Can I ask about Mark Murphy and his captaincy? It looks like he's really thrived in the role this year. He's taken that on from Juddy. Juddy's still there, which I think is a great thing for him to fall back on, but he's had a fantastic season, hasn't he?
He has, Murph, and his leadership was sometimes questioned in the media, but he's a great leader, and he's a very good player, and he's been growing in his role as captain as well, but his leadership has definitely improved along with a handful of other people as well at the club.
Is it exciting that Judd's decided to go on for another year?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't really know whether he was or he wasn't, but you can see the form he's in at the moment is as good as probably some of his best stuff. So we'll be very happy to have him go around.
Most clubs have a curfew, Jared. You've got to be home by 12, 1. Some good clubs maybe 2 in the morning. Carlton have the reverse curfew. You can't be home before midnight. What's going on down there at the moment?
No, look, I won't go into it too much. Obviously, a couple of the boys got into some strife the other week, so we've dealt with that, and hopefully we move on from that.
You weren't with them, were you?
No, I wasn't with those boys.
We finish up with Friday night in Geelong again. Do you have a sense of how important your role on Hawkins will be?
Yeah, obviously Hawkins is their number one target inside 50, their number one forward. So it's a big job to try and shut him out of the game, and we're doing the best I can to try and minimise his impact.
What's the week like when you're playing one of these guys? Are you a studier of tapes, of vision? Is it off what you learnt last time?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll look at what I did last time, but I think I know what I did right and wrong mostly last time. So, I'll have a quick look over that and try not to go over it too much. You can sometimes, do your own head in if you think about it too much. So I'll try to keep fairly relaxed.
Well, Sam, thanks for coming by. Congratulations on the new contract and well done.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Sam Rowe from the Blues with us on AFL 360. Tomorrow night is fight night. Key forwards of the past, Cameron Mooney and Barry Hall, to cast an eye towards round 21 and all the possibilities entailed with him.
He's surrounded. They've got him in the triangulation. He grabs it at the second attempt. This could be a goal. On the left foot, Jack Revolt.
Just outside 50, looks up. Who does he want? He's only got Edwards in the square. He goes short. Revolt. Oh, big grab. Plays on. High, goal square. Goal. Can you believe it?
So look at a couple of leads. They're pretty well dried up. He's going to go for Revolt, who leaps, almost marked, throws it onto the boot, one motion, and got there for a goal! How unlikely!
Pick a target here.
He's going to try and do that. He's the one on ball. Revolt is the one. He gained possession. Left foot snap was a good effort. He's going to kick a goal. Oh, Jack Revolt, miracle stuff. In the one movement, what was he doing? He pirouetted, got it on the left boot, and found it through for a massive goal.
So we finish up here, Kingy, with Who Would You Rather Be, brought to you by Gatorade. Just had to be Robbo's appearance tonight, I felt. Would you rather be Robbo or the Bubble Boy?
Oh, the Bubble Boy. I don't even know who the Bubble Boy is. I just don't want to be Robbo. It's as simple as that. Any remedies, by the way, flick them through to Robbo. He's desperate to get over this bad case of gout. Jared, who would you rather be, David Evans or Gil McLachlan in this current investigation?
I think I'd rather be Gil. It just feels like Gil's been on the winning side of things. That might change, but just for me at the moment, that's how it feels. Thanks very much.
No worries.
We'll see you here tomorrow night.